How's it? Welcome to episode 3 of Lessons from the Best Holistic Insights, Tips, and Tricks to help you play your best golf. And these are all quotes from the book that I wrote. It's available at back9press.com/Immelman, back the number 9 press.com/Immelman. And these are all from my podcast. And today's lesson comes from chapter 3. It's about Dr. Bob Rotella, noted sports psychologist. The chapter's name is Playing Golf Instead of Golf Swing. So here it is from Dr. Bob. I don't know how, but the golf ball knows what you're thinking. Most tour players will say that the ball usually goes where their last thought is. So if I can get my head in the right place, I will be in pretty good shape. Sounds simple, doesn't it? Well, when you spend time with Dr. Bob, you kind of get that feeling. He says these truisms to you and you're like, well, that makes sense. But then if you dive into it, you're like, well, why don't I do that? So here's the quote on which I built the chapter. He goes, the golf ball knows what you're thinking. Now, look, it's not the golf ball that knows what you're thinking, but it's the thoughts, the emotions, and all of these internal, immeasurable things you have going on that are going to define what your body's likely to do when the shot is on and when the pressure is up. So if the golf ball knows what you're thinking and you're like, oh my goodness, there's trouble down the right-hand side, there's a bunker down there, oh, out of bounds, don't go right. All your brain responds to is the right, not the don't go aspect of that little quip. So when you're organizing your thoughts and you're getting your head in the right place, as Dr. Bob recommends, let's change the vernacular. Let's change the vernacular from don't go right to my target's down the left-hand side. Make it something actionable. Don't think about where you don't want to go. Think rather about where you would like the ball to go. I challenge myself and a number of players when you over a putt, for argument's sakes. That final thought should be seeing the putt going into the hole. And then as soon as that's done, you draw your eyes back and you make your swing. I learned this from Jason Day, who has been on my podcast. So there, the image, getting your head in the right place, is the visual of the ball going in, as opposed to saying to yourself, I can't putt, I'm not going to make this is hard. You just insert whatever. We all have our isms, if you will. So change the vernacular, number 1. Then change the self-talk, number 2. I've heard it said by Dr. Bob and Dr. Bob Winters and a number of mind experts and psychologists. They all advocate that we all be our own best friend, our own hype guy or hype girl, if you will. Speak to yourself as if you're speaking to your best friend, motivating them to hit this difficult shot that's upcoming. Think about that. If you were the hype person for the guy or girl who's over your shot, would you say to them, don't go right? No, you'd say to them, you got this. Down the left-hand side, little fade, good rhythm. You would load them up with positive images and with positive thoughts. And you'd sort of set them up for something that is focusing on what we like to do instead of what we don't want. And that's what Dr. Bob is saying. I don't know how, but the golf ball knows what you're thinking. Most tour players, so golfers at the highest level that he works with, usually say the golf ball goes where their last thought is. So that's my challenge to you from this book, is to make sure your last thought, preferably all of your thoughts pre-shot, are directed to what you want to happen and not what you don't want to happen. And then to build on that, between the shots and pre-shots, be your own hype guy. Be your own hype girl. Speak to yourself as if you're motivating your best friend. And then, if you've hit the shot well, don't go, expected. Pat yourself on the back and go, I was the architect of that. Because as Larry Myers once said to me, he said, Mark, if I'm going to own my bad shots, then it's only right that I own my good shots too. So that's something for you to consider. Get your head in the right place, be your hype guy, hype girl, and then own your good shots too. Laud yourself for your good shots. Don't just berate yourself for your bad shots. You will be surprised at how much that'll help your game.